No part of this recording may be used to train generative so-called AI models. Make your own content or pay creators for their work, you opportunistic pathogens. To another episode of Fandom X Archive with your host, Dinara Tangri, aka Alien Super Soldier, aka That Cry Chick Chick. Season 4, we have a bit of a tradition now to kick off each season with an interview. And this month, I have a very fun and interesting and special guest, my friend and fellow X-Files fan, Laura Haskell. Laura and I met at the X-Files Museum back in 2022, and we've been following each other on social media since, and we also saw each other on FileFest. So I want to welcome Laura. Why don't you say something about yourself?
Hi. Well, Laura Haskell. I am a costumer for mainly theater and themed entertainment. Currently, I do a lot of freelance work from home. I'm a mom, and I live in Cincinnati area, Ohio. Anything else you'd like to know?
Well, I think that we talked about this already, but I think the audience is going to be very interested in the jacket that you have hanging behind you. So why don't you tell us about that?
Uh, I people probably know it's a pretty iconic piece, but it's a Scully Darkness Falls jacket. It's an Eddie Bauer. I that that's a piece that because as a costumer, as I was designing stuff for theater, we didn't used to have little computers in our pockets, so I would be out thrift shopping looking for things for a show, and I would see things that I'd be like, I wonder if that's the jacket that she wore in that, but it's not like I had access to look up a picture right there, so I could kick myself thinking about the number of times I probably saw one in a thrift store and couldn't check. But so it was several years ago, I was just like, I'm going to see if I can find that. And then found out that there were lots of other people interested in it too. So people had already identified it, which saved me a lot of work. But yeah, then it was because I was not as familiar with Eddie Bauer and how the sizing would work for me. So I found some and tried them on. Was like, this one doesn't work. So then I would find another one that was a different size and then resell the other one. So this is the only screen accurate one I have right now, but it's not a size that works for me very well. So I have a different size, but it's not screen accurate. Hers had two pink lapels, whereas most of the ones that you can find only have one pink lapel, and the zipper pulls are pink on the one that has one pink lapel. Um, there was some other difference. Oh yeah, that they don't all have the same pink lapel. I don't know the difference and why they're different. Maybe they were using what fabric they had and making it work, but it's not impossible to find one. But the range of sizes that I have seen them in is small to extra large. And extra large can fit 16, 18, depending on how you have your weight, just so people are aware.
Well, thank you for that information. And if people were, I mean, I'm sure a lot of fans are also interested in like finding screen accurate fashion, like what Scully wore and also what Mulder wore, perhaps his ties. Uh, are there any like thrift stores, any platforms, online resources that you would recommend for a beginner, uh, fan?
Well, first, for identification, I will throw it to I don't know the person whose account it is. There's somebody who has an account that's all Mulder's ties on Instagram. I can look it up and give you the tag on that later if you wanted to include it in notes. But then Scullyware is an account. I believe it's Ashley Rajkowski. I might have mispronounced her name. I'm sorry. Who I met through Twin Peaks fandom. She is. Sorry, I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan as well, and I have done a lot more finding clothes for Twin Peaks than I have X-Files. But Ashley has been going through and logging everything that Scully wears. Started at the beginning of the series. I think she's in season 4 now, or they are in season 4 now. Um, and when possible, um, actually puts up the identification for the clothing, or will put up things that are similar, or will discuss details of it so that somebody could use that to be able to find something at least similar, if not the same. It's definitely difficult, especially with how much time has passed, but also some things, the details are so tiny to be able to identify the actual item. So the Mulder's Ties and Scullyware Instagram accounts are definitely a place to go to for details on their clothing.
Well, thank you for that. And I will, I know the accounts you're talking about. I think the Mulder Tie account, we follow each other. I think also they're in in our Discord. I
Okay.
think like, if that's the account that you're talking about, then we're friends. And I will link, oh my God, the accounts,
Uh,
Instagram accounts of those people, in the description of this episode. And I mean, to me, this is what fandom is about. It's not just about consuming the material, or even just, I mean, just talking and discussing the source material is a, you know, a way of keeping it alive and keeping the discussion alive. But when people go the extra mile and they catalog things like Scully's costumes, Mulder's ties, or back in the 90s, there was this the website. It was called X-Files Easter eggs, I think. And it would just like they would just catalog everything, like every running joke, every like magazine cover on the show, like the work that fans do for absolute like no money at all, just because they're passionate about it and want to share it with their friends. This is what gives me sort of, keeps my faith in the fandom and humanity alive. So I just want to thank those people, and I want to thank you for doing what you do.
Thank
In
you.
so I think I kind of skipped a step here. I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you first got into the X-Files?
I I watched the pilot as it aired the first time. I was, I think, 10. And it scared the bejesus out of me, but I loved it. I watched Briscoe County Jr., which, if people don't know, was a Western show with a little bit of a sci-fi edge that Bruce Campbell starred in very briefly, but it premiered prior to when X-Files came out, so it was out, I think, for a few weeks, and then X-Files came on after it. Um, so I watched the first couple of episodes, stayed tuned after Briscoe County Jr. and watched it, and it was the opening of Squeeze when, because I remember the guy hitting the door, and then you see the dripping and what turns out to be the coffee cup and stuff. And I was just like, I love this. This is too scary for me. I'm a very delicate child, and I had a lot of nightmares. So I was like, maybe some other time. So it was, I think through the years, like I saw some bits and pieces of episodes, but I didn't actually know that they were episodes. So I remember seeing like a snippet of Kill Switch. It's when the kids are playing outside of the fence, and uh, the ball goes in and the girl yells, "They'll get you if you go in there." Like I saw that and I thought it was a horror movie. So, I changed. But it was Thanksgiving 1998. We went to visit my relatives, and my mom and older brother had been kind of watching the show, and my aunt was like, "Oh, this movie's really good." So she brought Fight the Future on VHS to the shindig. And we watched it, and I was just like, this is so good. This is amazing. We got home like the next day, 2 days later, and I immediately looked up when I could watch the show. So I think there were so many places that had reruns at that time that it was within a matter of months that I had caught up. So I was clearly not wasting any time. At some point in there, I got online. It was the AOL message boards, and got involved with that some. But people are mean on the internet, so I didn't get too into it a whole lot. But I ended up meeting, it was a group of girls that were similar age. So later teens, like 16, 17. that we met on there. I think there were a couple of ladies that were older than us. But when the AOL message boards started to decline, we started a Yahoo group and moved over there. So it was up until Yahoo shut down, that group was still there, and there were still a couple of ladies that would get on there and post every now and again. But I don't remember how it happened. A bunch of the rest of us found each other on Facebook. So we are still friends.
Wow.
Um, they are they're amazing people. And I I very briefly met two of them once. I was when I was in college, I was in the choir, and we went on a choir tour and had a place that we were singing in the town where two of them lived. So they came and, you know, watched the concert, and we very briefly said hi afterwards. Got a picture, which unfortunately did not turn out because it was the old the old disposable cameras, I think. But I was supposed to meet another one of them. David Duchovny just had a short tour with his music, and we were going to go to the show in New Orleans, and one of them lives in Baton Rouge. And I told her about it. So we were going to meet there for the first time. And then my husband had a conflict. So we ended up, the only other date that we could make was Arizona. So we went to Tucson instead. But I had bought the VIP meet and greet tickets for us because we were like, this might be our only chance to meet David.
Right.
But she had just gotten the regular tickets. So I messaged her and I was like, listen, I'm not going to make it and I'm so devastated. Do you want my tickets? So so I just gave them to her because I was like, the money, like, I'm not going to make my money back reselling those. There were still VIP passes available. So, she was like, "Well, do you want me to pay you for them and stuff?" It's like, money's going to be gone either way. Like, it's already spent. So she got to meet David and was like, but her husband went with her and he met him too, but I don't think he's ever seen him in anything.
Uh, so
So
he's
her
like,
husband has a picture with him, but was kind of like,
I guess he's cool. He's a cool dude. I mean, I guess it's a cool picture.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he'll get into him now and then be like, whew, I'm so glad I have that picture.
Like
So,
retroactively. Uh,
yeah.
this reminds me of this story that when I met someone at the elevator, I'm not gonna say who because I don't want to be like name dropping, but I rode in an elevator with some gentleman who was very, very nice and polite, and we just had this like conversation, and I thought he looked very familiar, and then I looked him up. I, I connected him to a certain name, a certain actor, and I looked him up, and it was that guy. And I'm like, oh my God, I just had like just a pleasant conversation, like just two normal people with this person who turns out to be a big celebrity in the nerd sort of world. And it's like you get sort of retroactively starstruck.
Now I want to know who it is.
I'll tell you later. I'll tell you after we're done recording. So you were part of the online fandom back in the 90s, and you said, people on the internet are mean, and they always have been, and they still are, unfortunately. But I mean, obviously, there was something there for you that kept you in those spaces and like those girls that you were interacting with. So what I'm interested in, what were you guys talking about?
Um, I mean, everything really. There was the whole debate about like Mulder Scully relationship, the good old MSR, because we'll say I was a fence sitter slash no Romo, which a lot of people would be like, what? But I I would say I was a big fan of the shows Caroline in the City and Suddenly Susan right before basically I got into X-Files. And they leaned really heavily into the will they, won't they thing with, the lead actress and whatever guy was the love interest for either one. And then the same year, the season finale, they finally got together. And then both shows lasted one more season and nobody watched them anymore and they ended. And I was like, if we end up this being all about are they going to get together, then it's gonna ruin everything else. So I was like, I'm not opposed to character wise them being, whatever for each other. Um, I'm a big believer on um, that platonic relationships are very important too, honestly, and that people can have a very close friend relationship, a soulmate-ish connection, without being romantic partners. That is a life philosophy of mine, but yeah, I didn't want it to overwhelm that. So there were a lot of shipper fencer no Romo discussions in there. Um, I too was a Krychek stan. So big Krychek fangirl. That's the one that I had a crush on, when I was back in the day. No shade to Mulder. He's not my type. But um, yeah. And I mean, now more than then. I'm a big Skinner girl too. So but yeah, a lot of that. Just discussions about things that happened in given episodes and, a lot of that damn bee and it was a long time ago. We were high schoolers. I actually I ran sorry, this is memories coming back. I ran a newsletter for a while.
Oh my God,
Yeah. I
that's
don't
amazing.
I don't remember how I got into it, but um it was somebody had started this. It was like Extertainment Weekly that they had started. And she was another like high school girl. She wasn't part of this group. So I don't remember how I got in with her, but she had asked me if I wanted to, help her write for it. So I had like a segment or something in the newsletter. And she had to take the bus to get to school. And when she like changed schools, and so it was a lot further. So she's like, I don't have time to do this anymore because I have to spend so much time on the bus every day. So she asked me if I wanted to take it over. So I did. I had like there were like hundreds of subscribers. Why were people following me? I don't know. It's not like it was terribly exciting. So I would recap the episodes. I remember I would have a poll every week. I think I did like a little trivia, like a few questions or something. I don't remember what all I had in it. But um the biggest reason well, one reason I remember it is because I got my AOL account locked so many times because they thought I was a spam account because I was emailing all these people. Um, but now there are things to get around that, like mail services or whatever.
Right.
But but when the Lone Gunman series was coming out, obviously Lone Gunman fan,
Yes.
but I did a question about like, are you excited for the Lone Gunman series? You're gonna watch it and stuff, and got my poll responses. But and there was, a mixture because not everyone was a fan of the Lone Gunman. Not everything's for everyone. But I took all of the nice responses, all of the really positive ones, and because Dean Hagland had a website and he had an email on it, and I was like, I don't know if he's the one that checks this email. I don't know what's going on. But so I just wrote an email into the void, like, hey, don't know if you're going to read this, but I just wanted to let you know, like, here's some people that are, excited for the show and really support this. So, like looking forward to it. And he emailed me back. I don't remember what he said, and the email is gone to the ages, but he sent me some like really good quality promo shots. It was from the I'm gonna blank on the episode name. I know all of them. Um, first person shooter.
Right.
With him in the gear and everything. Like they were huge files. So, it was I'm surprised it came through, on the old AOL account. But it was the sweetest thing. And then I was like, do I write him back? Do I send him? And then I chickened out. I never wrote him anything else. But I told him about it at File Fest, and he's like, I have no memory of this, but cool. Like, oh well. I told Byers, Bruce Harwood, about it, and he was like, I feel like I maybe remember that. Like, I feel like I remember him bringing stuff to the set, and I was like, maybe he's just saying it to be nice. But, like 17-year-old me is like, like, but anyway, when I went to college, I ended up just the newsletter just petered out because then I was too busy for it. I was so worried that I was going to forget to watch the show because turns out, again, I believe I mentioned that recently finally diagnosed with ADHD. I have a lot of time blindness and I forget what day it is and stuff. So I permanently, through my freshman year of college, I had TXF written on my hand in a Sharpie because I was like, I'm going to forget one of these days. I'm going to just space and completely forget it's Sunday. And thankfully, I never did. I remembered every week. But yeah, that was my freshman year of college was the final season. So, um, but I just didn't have time for a lot of extra stuff anymore. I was a really big Millennium fan too, but I didn't discover that until it was literally like a couple of weeks before the show ended. So I caught up with it on FX and just absolutely fell in love. Um, but yeah, I was very present in their forums, like the This Is Who We Are forums and stuff. And I just did not have the bandwidth for it anymore. So, but I recently found it was somebody on one of the groups on Facebook that I had joined. Somebody commented, and I was like, wait a second, you're that guy. And he was like, you're so and so, you disappeared. Like, and he remembered me, almost 25 years later. That's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Now, so did you watch the episode Millennium of the X-Files before you watched the show?
Watched Millennium first.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it I I don't dislike it as much as I did when I first saw it, but it was tough to have you watched Millennium?
I haven't, but
Okay.
from what I have heard, it's a lot darker and
It-
heavier.
yes. So it's the tone of the episode is completely different. And
Hmm.
it it was hard like justifying the two in my mind because I felt like it didn't do a lot of service to either Millennium or X-Files.
Hmm.
Um, which I adore all of the writers. Everyone is so kind and so talented and everything, so I'm not shading anyone. It was just a letdown, I feel like for me. I because I really wanted it to be more Millennium in the same way that the Jump the Shark episode that was the follow-up to Lone Gunman, the way that that was really a Lone Gunman episode on X-Files.
Hmm.
I wanted it to be more Millennium. And there were, seasons 4 and 5, we'll say, was a lot more in tone with Millennium. And I mean, it was at the same time as Millennium, so it makes sense in that. And it was also in Vancouver, which is, all of the very, very sunny Los Angeles episodes, a very different feel. But for the season it was in and the way that they were, it was a letdown. You should watch Millennium though. You should
I
definitely.
mean, it's on my watch list. I have so many
Yeah.
shows on my watch list. I haven't watched The Lone Gunman actually, so that's also on my watch list. I know.
I've watched
I'm a bad
it.
fan.
Well, if you didn't live half the world away, I'd say come on over.
Oh my. And we are back. I want to apologize to our listeners and viewers. Since I no longer pay for Zoom, they won't let me record for hours and hours. Only you only have like 40 minutes. The time limit is 40 minutes, so we had to stop and start again. But Laura, you were talking about how you were hosting a newsletter, moderating a newsletter, X-Files newsletter. And I find this so fascinating. I mean, you're asking like why, you're wondering why people, used to subscribe and read. Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious. It was a good newsletter and they were interested. Uh, so I
I hope
guess,
it was. I don't really remember much of what I had in it. I hope they weren't like, out of spam again.
do you have any, I mean, is there any like evidence left of that newsletter? I mean, it was all online and digital, but do you have like any templates left or any screenshots or
Yeah, I don't think so. It was, uh, like my childhood computer, I think we still had at the time, which is very long gone, unfortunately. I had a lot of stuff saved on it. Um, no, I mean, I still have my AOL account. Not that I've used it in years, but I don't think that there'd still be anything on there. I don't even know how AOL works anymore, and if they still have the things that they had. But I doubt there's anything in a folder. I've got I drew a lot, in high school. Again, like turns out I had ADHD, but so a lot of doodling and doing different things that helped me focus because keeping the hands busy with something mindless meant that I was free to listen. So I have lots of like, where I tried like redesigning a logo, things like that. Like many, many times that I redrew an Ouroboros. Sorry, I have another thing that I have with me. I got this from Angelo Vacco,
Ah,
who was cast and crew of X-Files and Millennium. But the Ouroboros I was obsessed with. And it's obviously there was an Ouroboros on X-Files as well, but I really loved the look of the Millennium Ouroboros. So I always thought that I would get an Ouroboros tattoo, but I would get the Millennium style and also
mm-hmm.
not a tramp stamp Scully, but that obviously it could be a nod to both shows, but I don't have any tattoos. I'm too chicken. It turns out, the thought of it is nice, but the thought of the needles is not. But
I mean,
yeah,
I
I had it.
got my first tat and first so far my only tat when I was like way, way in my 30s. So I
Yeah,
mean, if you just rethink it and just go like say, what the hell, one day, it's never
yeah,
too late to get a tattoo.
yeah.
But yeah, I
I might.
mean, it's scary. The needle is especially like if you don't like needles in general.
This piece of art, it's actually a sidebar. Is I found this artist because of Gillian Anderson. I
Ah,
met her at a con when my son Fox was 11 days old. Um, so that was a lot. I was not in a good place. The picture of
no,
us
no.
together like got dark circles under my eyes and everything, but I'm so glad that I did it. But she was she was like, "Oh my gosh, his name is Fox" and stuff. So she asked if she could take a picture of us. So
Oh.
I don't know if we're still somewhere in Jillian's cloud, but I was like, this is amazing. But when we met David, my husband told him about it and was like, "Did she send that to you?" And he's like, "I mean, I have no recollection of that, but who else would she have sent it to?" So we'll say, "Yeah, yeah, she totally sent me that picture." But she showed me a little printout that somebody had given her that I don't know if it was the artist that was there or just somebody telling her about it, but they had all of these drawings of Scully and a fox. And they also had a bunch of Hannibal drawings, it turned out. But it was a printout of Scully and a fox walking through like a snowy field. And she was like, and they said that if I look up the artist, that it moves and like you can see them walk through the snow. And I was like, I'm gonna have to look this artist up. And they don't have an an ongoing online presence that I found, but they were Tumble Buggy was the artist name. But I found that print and I just thought that that fox was so beautiful and like the
That's
whole
Mm.
adorable.
layout with Prince Scully. So I was always like, with my son being Fox, I was like, I could see getting that tattooed, like maybe where like I could always feel him when I was pregnant or something. But
Right.
again, needles. So
Yeah, needles. Yeah.
I'm
And
chicken
also,
liver.
yeah, you have to find a spot that's not as painful. Because I heard that, if you get tattoo like on your knee or a very like bony area, that it hurts so much more than it gets something more fleshy. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of thinking goes into that one. But since
sure.
we're talking about art,
Mm,
and there's a lot of art behind you. Do
yeah.
you mind like walking us through your collection there?
Well, this area is mostly Twin Peaks items. Um, what I've got up here, my how do I turn the computer? There we go. The Tumble Buggy piece, and then I don't remember the artist who did the block print, but silhouette I really love. And then the stickers on there are they're Denise from Twin Peaks.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's X Peaks Files is the account. She has all like Twin Peaks X Files mashup stuff, but My gallery wall is a little crowded right now. I really need to spread out because I've collected a lot more stuff since I first made this, but it's all just different artist items of Twin Peaks. Obviously, the blue rose plate is just a vintage piece that I thought was pretty. But we do go to a lot of cons. So I've collected most of this at cons. The Secret Diary page and the Audrey woodcut there,
Mhm.
I got from a local shop that the shop itself is closed now, but the artist, um, I'm going to blank on the name, was the shop owner was the artist of the woodcut, and he does other woodcuts as well. So that's a piece that I really love. You can't really see the Audrey and Cooper portraits up there very well because they're behind stuff. But that's an artist that was the brother of one of my husband's college friends, but he does local cons. Um, so we were there, we went to the con, we stopped and we're talking to him. And I was looking at these prints and everything. And we were in Kentucky, in Lexington, and something came up about local, and we're like, well, we're from Cincinnati, but we went to Berea College just down the road. And the guy was like, my brother went to Berea College. And then my husband's like, what's your brother's name? And he was like, you guys are like, he's such a good friend of mine. So we were like, what are the chances being somewhere like that and meeting somebody that he knew? So we always say hey to him and saw his brother at homecoming this last year. They're really nice people, but his I believe their colored pencil sketches are really beautiful. Um, it's just such a jumble of things that I've collected. Oh, the sorry, the if you can see it, the glassware
Right.
is the two Fire King mugs, the green and the peach luster, are mugs that were present in the sheriff's department. They are not screen used or anything. They're just antique items that I found, but they are mugs that were just at the sheriff's station. And then the Corel swirl mug is one that they used in the Great Northern Hotel. And actually, I've been watching Psych because there was a Twin Peaks episode and everybody always talked about it. So I was like, okay, it's time, but I need to watch the whole show. I'm not one of those. I can't just watch the single
Mm.
episode for the vibes. And I'm glad I did because I got a sense of what the show aura was, and then was able to see like how different the style choices were for the Twin Peaks episode. And it was very, very well done. But they actually used those same mugs in the diner of the Psych episode. So I was like, did they know? And the reason that I
Hmm.
got an idea on those is there is and Vinny Gadera, who has the 12 Rainbow Trout, is his Instagram handle. And he writes for the Twin Peaks blog, but he identifies props. He has a number of screen used props and a huge collection of screen accurate props. So I had followed him and I started seeing some of the jadeite mugs around that were like a different style. And so then I was like, that's one that I'd like to have. And so they're all ones that I've just come across and been like, eventually I'd like to have like a place where they can hang. Like I said, I need to spread this stuff out somehow. I need to redo my walls. But so I'm not leaning into collecting the props, but my couple little pieces. But I showed him the screenshots when I saw them in Psych, and I was like, do you think that this was on purpose?" And he's like, that's interesting. It might not have been, but I think I know some people, and I can get a hold of James Roday and ask him, the star of Psych. I'm like, this world is so small, and with the internet and everything, and the people that we've all met from doing cons, doing events and stuff. Like somebody knows everybody. My husband, his uh his former brother-in-law, that they're still very, very close. Um, I was at work when it happened, but he was over at his house and then he texts me and he's like, Sean's neighbor worked on X-Files. I was like, in what capacity? He's like, I don't, he's like, he's showing me this book that he has with stuff that he drew. Do you remember an episode where people were in a subway, like subway tunnels? And I was like, Chimera? He's like, yeah, he says that's what it is. He did the art for it, like that did the tunnels because it
Wow.
wasn't all like shot on a location. It was like paintings and stuff. I never got to meet the guy, and Sean moved, so I don't know what happened to his neighbor. I was asking about that recently. Like, you still got a contact for that guy? I never heard his name, but it's like what a small world. When we moved to this house, because my work, I'm a costumer, but more recently I worked in theme entertainment, and I worked for a company that we made animatronics and mascot type costumes and puppets, mostly for theme parks, but also for like touring productions. Um, like Made large scale animatronics for stadium shows, down to little puppets that were little bitty, things that were as big as a house almost, all the way down to that. Um, when we moved where we are now, which was right after I left that job, my husband was working out front, and the neighbor across the street came over and starts talking to him and like, oh, hi, nice to meet you and stuff. And he's telling about his kids and everything. And it's like, my daughter's a puppet builder. He's like, my wife's a puppet builder. And we have a lot of friends in common. Like everything. We're just living this random place in Ohio that we've moved to from Tennessee and everything. My husband's from up here, but I'm not. Um, and the person across the street, friends of friends, and like, what are the chances? So,
Exactly. What are the chances? It's kind of like my friend who I went to the Montreal with. So our neighbors, my family's uh, downstairs neighbors, were friends. They're this elderly couple, so we're friends. And one, they invite us over for Christmas. And so, like many years ago, like 10 years ago, maybe we were at a Christmas party with them, and their daughter she doesn't live in Sweden. She came over for Christmas, and so like we started talking, like. And then we start talking about the X-Files, and I'm like, wait a minute, you love like the X-Files? She's like, I love the X-Files. And like, what are the odds that I mean, just like this random person, daughter of our neighbors, like not related, and like, oh, another hardcore X-Files fan, and she just like happens to live, well, her parents happen to live like in the same building as me, and that's it. And I have an X-Files friend.
I I still got a story about that too. So, my husband and I we were mutual friends with somebody, but we never met. So he was childhood friends with this guy who my husband started college. The guy wanted to go to college where he was. So the next year followed him to college because he was a little bit younger. My husband graduated in 3.5 years. His friend was a 5 year major because he was a double major. So he was a 5 year student. He overlapped with my freshman year. Another person who was a freshman with me, um, they ended up getting married. So he was still around. So I knew him more because of that. Um, it was 2000, I graduated in '05, 2009. I moved to Cincinnati for what was supposed to be a year, to go to school for baking and pastry. And about a month and a half into that year, those mutual friends decided to have a get together around our college's homecoming. They weren't in the same town, but they were only about a half hour away. So she was very into, I really want people to get together this year. I miss everybody. So I was like, all right, I'm a lot closer than I have been other years, so I'll go down to that. Um, and Adam had, within the last year, like gotten divorced, so he finally had a little bit of free time. It wasn't his weekend with the kids, so they invited him and he came down. So he says that I walked in the door and he saw me and was like, I'm gonna marry her. It took a little bit longer to convince, but um, we ended up we we both stayed at their house that night. He had an air mattress in the living room floor, and I was on the couch. We were a lot younger then, but we ended up staying up all night and talking the entire night. So I had gotten a ride down there with some friends, and he offered to drive me back to Cincinnati. And when he dropped me off, we arranged the next Wednesday. So this is Sunday. On Wednesday, we were gonna go out. So he comes to pick me up at my apartment, and he knew that I'd recently moved here. It's Loveland, Ohio. And we're driving out, and he's like telling me a little bit about like the layout of the highways and how to get here and stuff. And he's like, so the town that you're in, here's a little bit of trivia about it. And he's like, actually, they used this town for an episode of X-Files. And I was like, I actually knew that because it was like a week before I moved there. I was at my parents' house, like getting ready. I had a couple of weeks home before I moved up here. And I found I think it was Chiller was showing episodes. And so I turned it on and it was Revelations, the little boy who is maybe Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, but I see the little ticker across the bottom and it says Loveland, Ohio. And I was like, that's where I'm moving to. Okay. But so I had just watched it. It was the only episode that I'd watched in a long time. But so he's like, there's actually an X-Files episode set here. I was like, I actually knew that. I was like, are you a fan of X-Files? And he's like, oh, I love X-Files and stuff. And so it's like, tried not to make it weird and like talk about it too much right then. But I'm just like, okay, okay. Because I mean, my little aside is it seems like everyone you meet that likes X-Files is either like really cool or like a total weirdo. Like I don't know if this is your experience, but either they're really cool. They love storytelling and, like really creative people, or they're complete conspiracy theorists, like believe that Chris Carter had a direct line to the government and he's revealing government
Right.
secrets and,
Right.
like real tinfoil hat types. And I didn't get that vibe from him. So I was immediately like, okay, okay. So worked out for me. We've been married just over 13 years, together for just over 16 years. So, yeah. But he wants to rewatch a little more often than I'd like though, because he starts the show. I've seen like the first handful of episodes so many times over our time together because he starts it. There's so many episodes, and then like you get busy with other things, and then we want to start it from the beginning every time,
Right.
not like
Right.
episodes.
So you
So
don't. I mean, I'm the same way. When I plan a rewatch, like you said, like a few episodes, like the first episodes, and then you get busy, and then I have to start watching it again. But you don't want to. You are a completionist, so you have to start from the beginning.
yeah, I am definitely a completionist. So I'm, the era of streaming and binge watching and everything, I'm very like, I'm watching this show right now. I'm going to watch this show to the end. I'm reading this book.
Same.
I'm going to read this book till I'm done. I can't read this other book because then my
Yes.
brain will be in a different place for that. And I might forget what I was reading in that. And like,
Exactly. No, I'm the same
I,
way. And I mean, I agree with you. Like, that's my observation also that X-Files fans are either really cool people and are very creative and sort of think outside the box, or are total weirdos, which
yeah,
is also very, very cool. But I
yeah,
think I think it just speaks to the kind of people that show like the X-Files or Twin Peaks attracts because it is a show that kind of makes you think. It is a show that I mean, it's not for everyone. Like liver-eating monsters and sewer mutants and killer bees. It's not something that is for everyone. So you have to uh, be a sort of person that is interested in well, weird stuff, but also just interested in finding out answers like on your own. I'm not saying like, just go full conspiracy nut, but just question the status quo and try and keep an open mind. I think that's why a lot of the X-Files fans that I meet are really, really cool people.
yeah. I think that there's with that idea of like this is exactly what's happening. I think it's overlooking a really important part of it, which is the level of creativity that it took for the writers to do the things that they did. Because there were a lot of things that were like ripped from the headlines, sort of things, Weekly World News or um it's my least favorite episode, but Space with the face on Mars.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're very much getting their footing at that time, but there's things like Mulder explaining science stuff to Scully that I'm like,
Right.
like I know you were leaning into him being the lead and him knowing all the things, but like I'm glad that
She's a
they
physicist. Come on.
yeah, like literally ask me about Scully's senior thesis is my
Right,
sticker.
right.
Einstein's twin paradox and new interpretation. She understands it, Mulder, and like just, maybe you could be like she got it, she knew it, and she just let him say the things, let him mansplain it.
Exactly.
But so I think that they were just still getting their footing in some ways with that. But but to be able to see these things, to see these real world things or these ideas, these conspiracy theories, and be like, what if? What if that was really the way that it went? Here's my interpretation of the story and how these people
Right.
would witness this. So I think that saying this is true and this is exactly it also doesn't give them the credit for the work that they did, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially as a, as a writer myself, it just, like you said, the creativity and the imagination and the sort of thinking that you need to do to get from this starting point, which is, well, maybe space wasn't the best example, but there are other examples when they they base something on like a real, not exactly a real life phenomenon, but a real like a phenomenon discussed in real life, and you just use that as a jumping off point, and then you make something different and you make something creative and unusual with it. It's not just like you said, ripping off from the headlines. So it does take a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination and a lot of guts,
Yeah.
which is something that I think the X-Files writers deserve a lot of credit for. Like even like with episodes that were complete misses, they went there. They experimented. They tried new stuff. I don't think that TV writers today are willing or, have the courage to take those chances anymore.
There's I've definitely seen that with like a lot of the more recent stuff that I've watched is it's it can be so formulaic. It can be full of tropes. It's you can see the way that it's going to go because you've seen this idea so many times. Um, and that I mean, like, yeah, it's a satisfying story and whatever, but then it's like I want to see this do things that I didn't know was going to happen. And I think, honestly, a great example of people doing it right. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but Vince Gilligan with Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and now Pluribus. I've heard some people saying like, oh well, I see where it's going and I see these things. I feel like it's like a lot of things that I've watched before. Like I that they keep setting that up though in different episodes. They'll be like, oh, this reveal, but it's a nothing. Like they lean into that. So I'm very interested to see where that one's going. If you haven't watched it, recommend. There's only so much time to watch all the new things, but
Right. And also, I can only afford to pay for one streaming platform right now. So like it's if it was just on TV, if it was just like on TV, or you can buy it as a DVD set, like back in the old days, that would be. But yeah, Pluribus is definitely it's something that I'm very interested in because it's Vince Gilligan, and also I think the premise is very well, not very X-Files, but it is out there. It's weird, and I like that.
yeah, it's definitely um I think X-Files Twilight Zone sort of thing. It's like if you to me that's what it is. Like there would be like a single episode of Twilight Zone that was something, and I feel like it's
Mm.
an expanded like if you took one episode and turned it into something bigger. So like I said, I'm very interested to see where it's going because I don't I have one theory, but overall I don't really see where it's going. But then like Breaking Bad, I did a false start on Breaking Bad where I started it and then, it starts out pretty rough right in the very beginning, like as far as like what happens in it. And I was like, I don't know if this is the type of show for me, like violence and drugs and stuff. And then it was like a few months later, I think it was, I was thinking about it. I was like, I really want to see what happens next. I want to see how they go with this. And then it was once I got past, then I was hooked. So it's I have heard the theory of the hook episode since that of a series. Like
Mhm.
there's an episode in general for every series that if you make it past that episode, you're going to be hooked and you're going to continue watching it. So if a series isn't hitting for me, sometimes I'll look up and try to see if people have said what they felt the hook episode was. And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm way past that. Like, so I think this just isn't a show for me. But I ended up loving Breaking Bad. And then Better Call Saul, I was like, seems odd to do an entire series about this side character that's in there. And I don't remember if I looked up the Hook episode for that one, but there's definitely an episode that like after getting past it, I was like, okay, this is actually like super brilliant. Like, and it just the entire trajectory of the show, it just got better and better. And I think ended up being better than Breaking Bad.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, which speaking of going to cons, we mentioned earlier, I met, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but Giancarlo Esposito. Um, I know somebody who has that last name and they pronounce it differently than than a lot of other people do. So I always forget which one he uses, but I met him at a con and I just was like, it's just so good. And Better Call Saul, like, I think it ended up being better than Breaking Bad. And he was just like, I agree. But he was giving all of the credit. He's like the writers and the rest of the cast and all this stuff. And I was like, and you? He's like, yeah. Like, like hello. Like he is somebody that like one of those people that cannot say a word and you know everything that's going on and stuff. Like I don't think I have all the facial muscles that somebody like that has, but he's just so brilliant in it. So I recommend that to anyone. But Vince Gilligan is has done so well with everything. Obviously, he's not doing all the writing for everything, but the storytelling and so um I'm always glad to hear about something new that he's doing so that I can watch it. But
Yeah, I'm always excited to hear about new projects that are, well, I mean, not reboots or sequels, not just that, but that are a little bit different. Like there are a certain number of shows that I watch and follow that are, currently running, and they're not sequels. They are original shows, but they're still so formulaic, like you said, and you just, yeah, it's a nice story, it's a nice comfort show, but there's just nothing there. They're not taking any chances, and to have someone like Vince Gilligan who seems to always be taking chances and doing something different each time, that's exciting to me.
you know, he makes a lot of choices that are really unsatisfying. So they're good for the story. They're,
Mm,
oftentimes realistic. But, there's always like there's so many things that you watch and like people are in trouble and you're like, they're not going to kill off that character, or it's one thing with X-Files back in the day was for the sake of stories, they would always announce like the contracts. They would be like, oh, Jillian and David have renewed their contracts for another year. Jillian's renewed for 3 years because they were messing her around with money. And so they would be like, well, we can give
mm.
you that much money if you renew for 2 years or 3 years. And then David would get to negotiate again after a year and he would get a raise and stuff. So I remember being pretty salty about that back in the day. But it was like, we know that he's going to make it out of this because he's contracted for another year.
Right.
Yeah, like, but when they didn't renew his contract, like, then that was a like, oh no. But then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's going to come back for half a season. So I was like, okay, well, saw something move out. Like my big back window there, but it's the wind blew something across the porch. Like,
Yeah, it's the
um,
fluke man.
ah,
Um, okay, so we have 10 minutes left. But I just want to ask you this. Were there was X-Files were sort of notorious for killing off fan favorites, like they killed off Melissa in season 3, and then like Deep Throat and X, like Mr. X and
spoiler alert.
were you was any of them like a shock? Like, oh, the episode when Melissa got shot and that's it, and she's dead. Like, do you remember being like upset and just the reaction, like, oh my God, I can't believe they killed off that character?
I I think because since I did come in after like season 6 had just started when I came into it. So I was catching up watching reruns. I saw some of it, well, I saw a lot of it when I first saw it out of order because I was watching reruns on FX and Fox and wherever they
Hmm.
had them. So I don't remember if I was particularly shocked about any of the early on things because I didn't have those years of getting to know the characters. But Krychek for sure, especially since, like there were all the things said, like, out of a cloud of dust, Krychek will walk, he'll have one arm, he might have one leg, but he'll be there. And then they did
Yeah.
that.
I'm still salty about that.
Yeah. It was like maybe he was a doppelganger, maybe he was a
Yeah,
copy.
right. Maybe like I read a fanfic where Krychek actually had a decoy that it was Michael from Genderbender, who poses
Ah.
Krychek, and he's the one who got killed and not Krychek.
It's Yeah, I mean, clearly, like, they kept bringing the smoking man back. Like,
Like Smoky
they
Man can
kept,
survive anything, and
they
if
kept
he can
killing
survive
him more
anything,
thoroughly.
right?
Yeah,
So I mean, my
like,
fan theory is that Krychek is still alive. He just, he's got some alien technology that brought him back. That's just my
I,
fan headcanon.
he, I could see, like, the whole thing that he had over Skinner, him being like, I'm gonna set you free, but I'm done with all of this. And so therefore I need people to believe that I'm dead and like setting up something and then being like, peace. Like,
Right?
yeah,
Right?
he living in Taiwan or something, like
Right?
laid back with whatever money he got from all of his nefarious dealings. But
Yeah, I like that theory. I
he
like that
got
theory.
like, yeah, like I think that he started out, you know, not caring about stuff like being an agent for whatever, like making his money, but it was after, having so many close calls and realizing like, oh, they literally don't care about anything that I've done. They will off me like everybody else. And having seen the things that he saw and realizing like how shady a lot of these characters were, that's when he kind of leaned into not even quite double agent, but like, what is he gonna do? They're gonna take him out. What options does he have? He's gonna keep fighting. So I do think that if he didn't have the cynicism that all of that gave him, like, and his inner knowledge of the syndicate based on how close he was to everything, like, I think that he had an idea of the good side of things, like wanting to do that, but he was just real angry.
Right?
Like, angry teen boy based on everything that happened to
Yeah.
him. So, like, I think that I think he could have, turned and been an ally more than he was if he had been given the opportunity as a character. But
I agree. And I could sit around and talk about Krychek for hours and hours. We could probably do that sometime. Like just like people that I have conversations with on social media, like other X-Files fans, most of the times we just end up discussing Krychek anyway. So well, listen, I want to thank you so much first for agreeing to do this interview and for sharing all of your stories. This is my favorite part about doing the podcast is listening and giving people the chance to tell their stories about, their lives and their time in the fandom. And tell us where our listeners can find you and your work.
well, my work. So I don't even think I mentioned it. I collect Twin Peaks screen accurate costumes. It's very much a special interest of mine, having been a costumer and noticed some of the costume stuff from there. And it started as just like, I wonder if I could find that, much like when I found the Scully jacket. Um, and then it just really snowballed from there. So my work on Twin Peaks costumes, it's not updated as regularly as it should be. But that is at Pine Weasel Fashion Show on Instagram. Um, I'm not updating, I'm still available through messages. Um, and there are a lot of things that I've identified that my executive dysfunction has gotten in my way and I've not posted, or things that I have found because I and some other people are looking for them. So I'm holding off on posting it because as
Mm,
soon as I post anything, then every one of them online is sold out. So
right.
uh, if people request an ID from me, then I'm not going to share it until I think that we either we both have the thing that we're looking for, or if they give me an okay.
Right.
Um, and then my personal Instagram is Pollywant Alpaca. I am I'm on there more than Pine Weasel because I forget to get on there and look at all the posts of the people that I follow. But we only have so many hours in the day. So
Right. Well, I'm gonna share your accounts also on in the description of this episode because I wanted to talk about your Twin Peaks fashion page, but we're running out of time, and I don't want to take up much of your time, and maybe next time we can talk about more of your the Twin Peaks side of things.
we can talk
So
about the mishmash of the Twin Peaks and the X-Files and the
absolutely, we can talk about Denise.
I
The
adore Denise.
queen of Denise,
Yeah.
the goddess Denise.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I will let you know when I'm done with the editing, and I'll let you watch the final result before I post it. Thank
Okay.
you again so much, and yeah, I guess that's a bye for me.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.